Alright, how's it going? It's day 4, I believe, and we are going to do a recap of everything we've gone over the last couple of days. In this video, you're going to see your variables in play, your operators, your functions, and all that. So, this video is strictly just going to be a recap and an example of, like, this is how you could use this stuff, and like an actual example, not just, random examples like we saw yesterday in the operator video. Like, this is, you could use this in, say, like a game or something, and just adapt it. So these are real examples, so hopefully this helps make it full circle, and just, it helps you guys understand a little bit more. But starting off with our first example, we have 3 variables. We have part 1, part 2, part 3. These parts are equal to the parts here I have in the workspace. As you can see, part 1, part 2, part 3. And we know how we do that. It is equal to game.workspace.part 3, because the parts are in workspace. Hopefully you guys understand that by now, and we know how to reference things. And then we have a random number generator here I made in this variable local RNG. We did not go over this. You guys should not know how to do this. If you do, that's awesome, but I did not teach it, so don't worry about it. It's not important, really, not now at least. Just know that we will create a random number. And then in our code here, I want to make part 1, part 2, and part 3 have a random size, a random vector 3, and a random brick color every time I run the game. Except I have to type out this code 3 times for each part, and the code is the exact same. We have side equals RNG colon next integer 1 through 10. Again, we did not go over next integer or the random number generator. Just know that this code side is going to create a number between 1 through 10. So when we create a new vector here in our second line of code, we have part 1 dot size equals vector 3 dot new. We have our data type, our instance, and then we have our dot new constructor. And then instead of numbers here in these parentheses, we just have side, comma, side, comma, side in place of numbers, and this is going to either be a number between 1 and 10 for each size. And then we have part 1 dot brick color equals brick color dot random. So we didn't go over dot random, but dot random is, I don't know if it's exclusive to brick color, but it is not available to everything, and it allows us to create a random brick color. Super helpful. So that's how we're going to create a random brick color. But the code is the exact same. And it's only 9 lines of code. It's nothing crazy, but the concept is still there. If this was more complex and took up many lines of code, that just makes our code look unorganized, unclean, maybe harder to read. And it's just like, we could do this in 1 line of code, or not 1 line of code, 1 block of code. We could do this with a function. Instead of typing out this 3 times and then just changing the variable of the part, we could just do this in a function, and that's what you see here. So we have our function, local function, and the function name, randomized part. We have 1 parameter, and that is just part. And then we have the exact same thing we see up here. We have our side variable, local side equals RNG colon next integer 1 through 10. I can make this bigger. If I make this 1 through 100, now our part has a chance to be 100 studs in one direction. But 1 through 10, we don't want the part to be too large. And then we have part dot size equals vector 3 dot new side, comma, side, comma, side. It's the exact same thing, even the brick color. The exact same thing you see up here, except it's all done in 1 line of code. And this parameter here will get filled when we call the function. So when we call the function here, we have randomized part 1, randomized part 2, randomized part 3. If you had 4 parts, then you would type this again, randomized part 4 in the parentheses. So we could call it, and we could pass through our variable, which is part 1, right? We still need our variable to do this. And this looks so much cleaner than having to type it out 3 different times. So, like I said, if this was larger code, this would be huge. It would make our code so much more organized, way easier to read, and all that. And functions, you could collapse them, so even better, right? You could just minimize it, and it will take up less space. And then if we were to run the game here, test and run, we could see our parts are different. We have a pink one, we have a blue one. These two are kind of similar in size, but they're a little different. And then we have this smaller kind of white beige one. If I were to run the game again, you'd see they'd be different. Now this one is gray and smaller. This one is pink and like a medium size, and this one is a large white one. So that is functions. That is a real world example of why we'd use a function. Functions are simply just reusable code. Instead of having to type this out 3 times, we could do this in one block of code and pass in our parameters. So hopefully now you kind of understand, like, oh, this is why we'll use a function. And this example, I'm sure you've seen it before. It's like everywhere on Roblox Studio's YouTube, but it's a good example. I couldn't pass up using it because it's simple enough for everybody to understand, and it just makes sense. So let's get into our conditional statements. Just recap these. We're still using this variable or this function in the examples that follow. This time we want to check the brick color, right? So say we run the game, we have random parts, random sizes, random colors. What if we want to find a part that's the color really red? Well, we can do that here with our if-then conditional statement. If part.1 dot brick color is equal to really red, which is a string, we always have it in our string form, then print part1 is red. If it is not red, if this condition is not met, because the condition is part1 has to be really red. If it is equal to really red, then print part1 is red. But if it is not, we have our else statement. And if we remember, our else statement is, I want to say last resort, but it is what will be executed, what will happen if the first condition is not met. And usually it is just a print statement like this, print part1 is not red. It makes sense. If part1 is red, then it is red. If it's not, then it's not. So if we can run the game, and did we get any red parts? No, we got some yellow and black. Part1 is not red right here. And you can click on the output, and it will take you to the line where that is printed. Or if there's an error, you can click on it and it will bring you to the error, which is helpful. And then we have our next example, and this is an if and then. So this, it looks like we are checking if both part 1 and part 2 are really red. And if they are, then we're going to print part 1 and part 2 are red. So we have our if part1 dot brick color, because we're checking the brick color, and brick color here, this is just a property of brick. If we go click on any of these, this is just a property, and we could check anything. Like this could be part1 dot anchored, and we could check if it's anchored, but for the example we're doing brick color. So if part1 dot brick color and part2 dot brick color equal really red, then print part1 and part2 are red. And then we have again our else. If they're not red, then print they are not red. So again, we could run the game, and then we could see there's no red parts, let alone both being red, and we could see part 1 and part 2 are not red. So our next example, but if you don't care about both parts being red and we only want to know if one's red, right, we could use an or statement. So if part1 dot brick color is equal to brick color dot new really red, or part2 dot brick color equals brick color dot new really red, then print either part 1 or part 2 is red, or it's just going to print neither part is red. So again, we could run the game with F8. This we're not a playable character. We're just kind of a flying camera. Both parts are not red. There's no red parts. I think this is pink. Yeah. Dusty rose. So we printed neither part 1 nor part 2 is red because none of the parts are red. Why is there no red parts spawning? I don't know. There's a lot of colors. And then another way is our not. We have not. So if not part 1 dot brick color is really red, then print part 1 is not red. So not reverses whatever it is. So if it's true, then it's false. If it's false, then it's true. But brick color is not a Boolean value, so that's why we kind of have it in our parentheses here. And this isn't, I just put this in for the sake of the example. This is not how I would do it. I would rather use our not equal to than operator, which is this line, squiggly line. I keep forgetting what it's called, equals. And this is I think it's much cleaner way of handling it, and it just kind of makes more sense. And this is just if part 1 dot brick color is not equal to really red, then print part 1 is not red. And if it is, if this condition is not met and this brick color is red, then print part 1 is red with our else statement. So this is basically all we've covered over the last couple of days since the beginning of the series. We have our variables. We know how variables work. Local, we use our local keyword. Then we name the variable. What do we want the variable to be called? And then we set it equal to whatever we want it to be, whatever is beneficial to us, whatever we're trying to access. Then we have our instances and our data types. We have vector3, which we know that creates a size, an x, y, and a z, so we could change parts with that. And then we have our constructors. We've only covered .new, really, and we know this creates a new one. We know we saw in, I don't remember what video, but we were able to create a new part using instance.new and then parentheses part. And we saw that we could create a whole bunch of stuff. Later when we get into connect functions, where we don't call functions but rather connect them to something like a touched event or a button press, we could see that we can use those functions to create stuff without having to call it, all that. And we have our conditional statements. If then, if our condition is met, what are we doing then? Hence the then here. If this is really red, what do we want to happen next? Print. And it doesn't have to be print. We could type up any code we want, right? We could say if part 1 equals really red, then we could just re-roll the colors. We could set it to a new brick color, or we could just print. We could do whatever we want in here. This is just for the example. And then if it's not, what do we want? Maybe we do want it to be really red. We could re-roll it until it is red, or set it to red. All that. And then we have our and. If something and something are what we want them to be, if both conditions are met, in this case is really red, what do we want to happen next? And if they're not, what do we want to happen? Hence the then and else. Or is our first condition met, or is the second one met? Not the opposite, right? Do we want it to be really red? If not really red, which means it's not red, just like English, if it's not red, what do we want to happen? Or we could be smarter about it, and we could use our not equal to then operator, right? There's so much we've covered over the last 4 days, and I think this is a pretty solid foundation, and you guys should be able to grasp all this if I was able to explain it well enough. But if I'm not, this is when I need you guys to tell me what I could do better. Like, you gotta spend more time explaining things, because I might be, glancing over things. I've been coding for quite a while now, many years. I might just be glancing over things, and I might not think to explain them because they're so commonplace. So when somebody who's completely new or watching my videos, it might seem like there's just a big piece missing, but to me, that it's so commonplace, I don't even think to explain it. And that's when you guys have to go in the comments or join my Discord server and say, hey, like, we need this explained. And I will be happy to either go back and, make a short or a new video, like, explaining it. So I need you guys help to, make these videos better. Like I said, this is like my 5th ever video, or 4th. I don't remember what day it is, 4 or 5. So I'm not perfect, obviously. These videos aren't perfect, so I need help to make them better. So as always, though, if you guys have any questions, join the Discord server, communicate with me directly, or leave a comment. What I find is people leave comments, and if I respond to them, nobody ever gets back, and I think that's because nobody checks their YouTube notifications. I don't. So go on Discord and have a live conversation with me. Ask me questions there, and I can just get back to you as you type, which is much better than comment and then I reply a couple hours later, and then you see it a couple hours later. It's it's not as convenient. So any questions, ask me. Join my Discord server. There's people in there that will probably help you as well. I will definitely help you. I know that for a fact. And I will see you guys in the next video.